Hey folks, this is your host, the one, the only Thrifty Gamer 83 here. I've been hearing talk of banning violent video games. And something that would be more palatable and just to say, whoa, 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 easy guys, easy. Come back to us now. Get off the banning planet. Get off the censorship planet. This is not the USSR. Something which would probably be more palatable for interests and as well economically feasible would be to have games released on a T for teen basis for one release and then an M for mature for the next release, instead of saying wholesale, let's ban these violent video games, because then banning doesn't work. Banning is one of those things. It's primitive, and censorship is not written into the First Amendment. It's not written in to say, this is so violent, we should ban it. And we have the ESRB. We have several safety checks. We have games. And having worked in retail now on that level, I can tell you there are times where I just looked at kids, looked at them. They were 13 or 14 trying to buy an M game and just said, kids, no, 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 no. And one time in particular, a parent said, well, what would you recommend? And honestly, I could point them to the Batman series at the time for the Wii U and the PlayStation 3, and they were looking for something even more family friendly for all of their family to enjoy. So what I did from there was told them about Fortune Street, and it's an enjoyable little title. It's a great game, but beyond that, really, we don't need to wholesale just ban things if people did their job at the retail level as well. And looking at it that way, looking at it to where, say, hey, T for teen, we can make more of these units, we can grow a base there, and if it's something that an adult wants, we can make it M for mature and include all of the content we didn't include in the T for teen release. Economically, it makes a lot of sense, and it's more feasible than saying ban, 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 ban. Get the ban hammer out. Get the censorship hammer out. And I just look at it that way. And as well, being a dad just really makes me look at it. You can have games which have a T for teen rating, like The Conduit, and perhaps you could re-release it with more mature themes and a more mature audience, and just capitalize on the sales there, and still you could have a T for teen rating on something like a Grand Theft Auto, because I actually have Grand Theft Auto 2 on my original PlayStation, and it's rated T for teen. As a matter of fact, I've got the PC release as well. That one is rated T for teen. And I know it can be done. I know it can be done to capitalize on sales. And as well, this brings me to the second issue. Oh yes, the second issue that I've been looking at in the talk I've heard with Final Fantasy VII, the remake, being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Well, let's take a look at this corporately. Sony is trying to move units. They contracted with Squaresoft. So Squaresoft Square Enix. So what does Square Enix do? They keep touting it. And if you remember the PlayStation 3 where they did a trailer of updated visuals for Final Fantasy VII, you can actually see or concede that it is pretty much the same vaporware which they had tried to push out the door onto an unsuspecting public to give Sony those sales to help them sell and move the PlayStation 3, only later on being told, well, the hardware's not there yet. And, they're talking about Final Fantasy VII as an episodic adventure and purchasing different DLC and content packs. And, oh my heavens, it is vaporware. Final Fantasy VII, the remake, is vaporware. You can wrap it up in a nice high-definition package. You can show the in-game engine. But the thing is, with the release dates getting pushed back and back and back and back, and it's going far, it's out of the park, it's not coming out. Realistically, this is Sony and Square Enix working to move through inventories and sales to help Sony. To help Sony against the Switch, to help them against the Xbox One. From the long view, analytically, this is designed to have a user-based functionality, whereby it was the old Dreamcast era of thinking to build a strong base, a strong consumer base, and later on say, as they did with the PlayStation 3 version, the hardware just isn't here, folks. So, realistically, you have that as vaporware at the moment. And really, Square Enix just looks and says, well, this is how it is, and that's how it's going to be, and whatever we choose to filter out the door, people will be fine with it because this will drive sales for Sony, and it helps us in the contracting long-term sales analysis. Now, excuse me, as someone who enjoys my Sony PlayStation 3 and older consoles in general, I'm feeling like I'm not missing out from the Sony Vaporware crap show. I feel I'm not missing out on anything that Sony says, hey, this will come out, it'll come out in 2023. It will? Really? Really? You have it up for pre-order now. And I have a feeling what's going to happen with the pre-order is it's going to be canceled. Consumers are going to get the refund. It's a temporary stopgap. And as well, it helps Sony. As I said before, it helps move out the PlayStation 4 inventory and merchandise and sells people on a presumed or assumed release date. Which as well is happening with Kingdom Hearts 3. And I do apologize, folks. I've had a vicious cold. Unfortunately, my son, PJ, has it now, and my wife, Yvonne, does as well. So, yeah, I've been a little bit busy with that. My son and my wife come first. Anyway, moving forward, that's basically what's happening. Sony says, hey, Square Enix, we're having trouble moving these, and, can you sign a contract with us? The product may not come out, but you can list the pre-order, and, yeah, it's a temporary short-term gain, but in the long term, it deserves to be exposed for the vaporware, which it will undoubtedly be. Now, as I said before in my first topic, going back, I'm looking and I'm seeing the most insane of thoughts that people say, ban violent video games. You know, it's something I read Bible stories to my son to put him to sleep. You know, the watered down versions. It's not the complete biblical account. It's not the King James version. It's not the ESV version. Because my mind is, I look at China, and when I hear people say ban this or ban that, it took China a while to actually allow for the Book of Revelation to be preached in their own state-sponsored churches. So, with that in mind, what would happen is you would ban violent video games, you would ban violent content, you would ban, say, certain structures of scripture which would be disagreed upon and outright either replaced or taken completely out as being too violent. So ban violent video games, ban violent scripture, ban this, ban that, ban this, ban that. Banning doesn't work. Now, that's the original point I wanted to get to. On to the second point, continuing, of Sony and Square-Enix. Yeah, it's a short-term profit margin motivation to have the pre-orders and probably at the last minute say, well, you know, it's not coming out, but we'll refund the pre-orders. So now you refund the pre-orders, but those checks have cleared and you're working on other projects to try to supplement and make the sales, which you know are not going to be there once the products continually become vaporware and are pushback, as I said before. So, there it is, folks. This is my two-part response to both banning violent video games, which I feel it should just be a tiered system of T for teen releases of Grand Theft Auto 5, and you could re-implement it for Grand Theft Auto 5 under a mature theme, Resident Evil, a T for teen release, and then a Resident Evil M for mature release. So, seeing the engine used in The Last of Us, as well as seeing the engine used in the Drake series, I think it can be done. I think there can be different tiers for mature games to be released as T for teen. And as I said before, for Square Enix and PlayStation 4, with that, it's a pretty big bargaining chip just to have Square Enix and PlayStation 4 make back losses and move inventories. Alright, folks, rant, rave, love, hate. Click that subscribe button. You're keeping my show on YouTube. Have a good one.